Good morning. There we go. We got it on. We are live. Well, I am Chairman J.D. Neely of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, and on behalf of all the commissioners here, we'd like to start this meeting, and first by saying thank you to the people of Mountain View for hosting us in our state parks. We'll have more comments on this following our meeting too, but we can't say thank you enough to the wonderful venue we've had here with state parks, to the hospitality throughout this entire community. We have several guests in our audience I want to recognize before we get started. We have former Commissioner Jim Hinkle back here in the back. Jim, thank you for your service, and this is your hometown, and again, thank you for all your hospitality. We've got to share a couple of days, good days, catching up with Jim, and always love his support. We have, get my glasses back on here, Roger Pearson is here. Roger, raise your hand. Thank you for coming. And Mr. Tom Sugar with the foundation is here with Deke. Thomas, thank you for coming up, and Deke for coming up as always. We have Senator Missy Irvin here. Senator, thank you for all your support, and we love being up in your hometown. Brian Hendricks here with our Gazette and Democrat Gazette. As always, Brian, welcome. We have few commissioner spouses here. My wife Beth is here, and there you are. And Sherry Jones right beside her, and the director's wife, Kristen Booth. Welcome, ladies. And with that, I think we've got all of our guests, unless I missed somebody. And we are now ready to begin this meeting officially. I'd like to call this meeting to order for our November 24th meeting. I'd like to call Chaplain Roger Pearson. Again, Roger, welcome. And if you would open us up with prayer and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
You would bow with me, please. Lord, this time of year we got so many things to be thankful for. We're reminded often when we drive across the beauty of this great state, just what all you've done for us. So, Lord, we thank you for what we get to enjoy. We thank you for the many servants that are in this room, that both past, present, and the ones to come, Father, that have served to protect and make this the most beautiful state in this country, Father. So, Lord, we thank you for that. And as we also move into this season, Father, it's a time of Thanksgiving. I pray that everyone remembers what we're to be thankful for. And this is a time of reconciliation of the things, the memories that we have sometimes forgotten. We draw those memories back to us and enjoy those. I also ask, Lord, for the umbrella of safety to be placed over each and every member of this commission, that you keep them safe and free from danger, as we all know how dangerous this job can be, regardless if it's the law enforcement side or not. So I just pray you keep them safety. I pray you ask, Lord, that each and every decision that's made by this commission is drawn through the filters of your word. I pray you give each and every person the courage to do that in your name and through you. I love you, Lord, and I pray all this in your beautiful Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
First first matter for today is our agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented?
Mr. Chairman, yes, as chair of the Budget Committee, I would like to propose that we remove item 1B from approval of the agenda. This would be 5A from the agenda as it was tabled for further discussion in committee yesterday.
Okay, do I have a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, now can I have a motion to approve the current agenda?
Move to approve.
All right, motion from Anne Marie. Need a second? Second by Brandon. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved. Okay, next, approval of our October 24th, 2024 commission meeting notes.
Chairman, I'll move approval of the minutes.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Tappan. Need a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved as well. Next up, we have some AGFC staff presentations. Mr. Blake Sass will give us a fur bearer update.
Good morning, Commissioners, Director. I'd like to introduce Blake Sassy. Blake began his career with the Commission in 2000. Blake is our non-game mammal fur bearer leader, and we all heard his name mentioned yesterday in our tour of Blanchard Springs Cavern. Blake is, I would say, the foremost expert on bass in the state, and he's also very active nationally. And so he's here this morning to give an update on the fur bearer program.
Good morning, Chairman, Mr. Director, Commissioners. Today, I'm going to share some of the highlights of our 2023-2024 fur bearing annual report. Luke will be forwarding you the written report next day or so. But I just want to hit some of the highlights. Starting off with the percent of resident trapper permit holders that actually went out trapping this year and set traps. We actually did see an increase this year for the first time in a while, a pretty significant increase in those numbers, up to about 51% of permit holders actually going out trapping. So kind of the question that follows from that is, well, what happened to the other 49%? And the most common reason that permit holders don't trap is they say they're too busy. That's pretty consistent for as many years as we've been surveying them. There's a much smaller percentage that say they're not trapping because pelt prices are too low. And about the same percentage of people that say they've got some sort of health reason that's preventing them from going out and trapping. And that is consistent across years, no matter whether the pelt prices are high or low. Most people who don't trap they say they don't have the time to do so. Now, in looking at the kind of composition of the trapper community, it's really changed a lot over the years. 20 years ago, most of the people that were trapping were out there to get fur pelts to sell. And however, that has changed a lot recently. Now, most of our trappers are actually out there because they're either doing nuisance animal control to protect their crops or property, or more commonly these days, they're doing it for some sort of wildlife management purpose. And those are the majority of our trappers, and those that are actually out there trapping for the pelts are a pretty small minority. Now it's down to only 12% of our active trappers that are doing it for the pelts. Now, we keep track of the pelts purchased by licensed fur dealers in the state, and that's one of the ways we track some of our populations of these fur bearers. And we did see an increase in the total number of pelts purchased this year. It wasn't significant because overall pelt prices are low, which I'll show you in a minute. But we did see an increase in number of pelts and a decent increase in the value of those pelts this past season. Now, most of that increase in value was due to some competition between some of the fur dealers regarding beavers. And that really drove up the beaver pelt price this year and a little bit last year as well, which increased the total value of the harvest. Raccoon, which has historically been kind of the mainstay of the trappers in Arkansas, most commonly caught, usually the most valuable if you put them all together. This year, pretty low number of purchases by the fur dealers. Now, I do have to say, don't take that as an indication of actual raccoon harvest in the state. Last season, we did do a survey of our trappers and asked them, how many raccoon did you actually take over the course of the season? And that would lead to an estimate of somewhere around 60,000 raccoon actually being taken by our trappers. But like I said, very few of those are actually sold into the market because that's not why most of the trappers are out there. They're not out there to sell those pelts. Otter and bobcat have been pretty strong components for trappers as well. Fairly decent prices for those. I wouldn't say they're outstanding, but they're enough to actually maintain a lot of interest in trapping for those particular species. Now, the outlook for this season, which has just started, is not great. For most species, the market is still fairly weak. Bobcat and otter are probably predicted to be about stable in terms of their prices. We expect beaver prices to decline. There's kind of a trend in using beaver felt, basically, in hats and the like over the last few years, and that's kind of sort of run its course. So we're expecting a decline in demand for beaver. So those prices are probably going to drop back down. But for raccoon in particular, until Russia kind of returns to the world market, raccoon demand will remain very low because that's where a lot of our raccoons actually ended up going eventually, was Russia. And with them not really participating, demand is low. And even if that should change, it would probably still take several more years for there to be a big demand for new pelts to be taken, because there's still pelts sitting around in freezers that people have taken in prior years that haven't been sold yet. So it's not going to be a banner year for fur bearers in Arkansas, I'd say. So just kind of switching gears a little bit due to the kind of the trend of this particular meeting, I want to talk a little bit about the gray bat, which is the species that uses Blanchard caverns most commonly. They usually form these large clusters. For the gray bat in particular, we're talking tens of thousands or more in clusters when they're hibernating in caves in the winter, which is what they're doing in Blanchard for the most part. But they've been endangered since the 1970s. They're one of the kind of the first group of species that were listed as being endangered because of disturbance by people during hibernation, and also in the summertime when these bats are raising their young inside caves as well. People going in caves, especially in the winter, cause the bats to wake up, use a lot of energy that it takes for them to survive until spring when the bugs they eat come back, and can cause them to starve to death or move to worse sites to hibernate in where they don't do as well over the long term. So people would be going in caves for just general fun, more bad actors, putting graffiti in caves, and you'd be amazed how far people will take beer back into caves to drink it. A lot of activities that people don't really intend to harm the bats, but has happened. And that's the reason that the gray bat became endangered in the first place. So people like me have focused a lot of effort over the years in protecting bats during those times by building physical barriers at a lot of caves, like the bat gate on the left, or I'm sorry, on the right, that lets bats kind of fly through the bars, that keeps people out. Or on the left there's a vertical steel bar fence that the bats just fly right over. And that has worked very well. At Blanchard Caverns in particular, the action they took was where they had maybe about 500 or so bats hibernating there in the 1970s. And they had the tour that was starting there. And after we figured out what was the main problem for these bats, the Forest Service actually closed down the part of the tour that goes by where the bats like to hibernate during the winter months. And since then, it's gone from less than 500 bats to hundreds of thousands are not hibernate in that cave, just from being left alone during that part of the year. Other part of the year, that tour is open and ready for business. But overall, the gray bat has been doing great. Their populations here in Arkansas are almost 1.2 million. Now you'd say that's a lot of bats, and it is, but that's concentrated mostly in 3 caves, Blanchard being one of them. And that's what we see across our range. You can have several millions of bats, but when they're concentrated in just a small number of caves, they're very vulnerable to something happening to those caves. But over the last 50 years now, most of those caves have been protected in one form or another, and the gray bats have responded well. And it's quite likely that these bats will either be downgraded to threatened or very possibly just taken off the endangered species list entirely because of these management actions. So that's what I have today. I'd be happy to take any questions. The northern long-eared bat, yes.
I know it's suffered greatly here in Arkansas and in this area due to white nose.
Yes, they're a difficult species to monitor, but just based on how often we catch them during the summer months when they're flying around, their populations in Arkansas probably declined by 95% or more. Actually, it had been several summers since we'd even caught one here in the state till the Forest Service caught one this past summer. So they went from being incredibly common to incredibly rare in a very short period of time due to white nose syndrome.
Is that nationwide or regional?
Yes, that's pretty much nationwide.
Blake, great presentation. Back to the fur bear side, and just from my personal observation, already this year on cameras, if you look at your cameras, you got probably 8 to 10 to 12 raccoons showing up at every deer feeder or food source out there on our game cams. Probably one of the highest raccoon populations I've ever seen. So with our trapping being so low, the price of raccoon fur being less than $1, I don't guess we'll get a lot of trapping out there to make money, but hopefully we can encourage our hunters as they're out there to use those little coon traps that you can put a marshmallow in and help take some of those out, because we really have got a lot of coons on the landscape. Have you noticed and been hearing that as well?
Well, it's definitely the perception of our trappers that the raccoon populations have been increasing for quite a few years. There's no doubt about that. Thing is, we have given any private landowner that wants to manage fur bears to help turkeys or quail or whatever, they've got all the tools they need to do that. We have permits or seasons that will let them take the steps they need to try to manage those predators. It's a really open question how much good that actually does for turkeys or quail. The research isn't quite as detailed as I would like on that, but it seems like a little bit of a crapshoot on sometimes it's been known to help, sometimes it hasn't. But if the landowner wants to try, they've got what they need to do it.
Any other questions, comments for Blake? Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, well, moving on, we got a private lands training update from our Garrick Duggar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. In case anybody doesn't know me, my name is Garrick Duggar. I'm the Private Lands Division Chief, currently serving in that role. This morning, I do appreciate from the Commission, Director Booth, giving me this opportunity to give you an update on what's going on in the Private Lands Division. Unbelievably, it's been 18 months since the last time I was up here to give you an update. Time flies when you're having fun, for sure. But today, this update I'm going to provide today is really focused on several of the processes that our division's been working on over the past 18 months, and really not get involved in, and we're not going to get down in the weeds of all the habitat accomplishments we've made. But we are preparing that update for you guys. Hopefully in the next couple months, we're going to provide a full update of all of our habitat accomplishments that we've been able to do over the last 12 months. So with that, I'll get started. Something that we've been working on a great deal, and I've already went past it. Something that we've been working on a lot the last 18 months is building our team. And so most of you are aware that in order to be successful at running a business, an organization, a state agency, or even a division, it all starts with building the right team. And so we've put a tremendous amount of effort in putting this team together during this past 18 months. So since the last time I gave you an update, only 8 of those staff that were working 18 months ago are still in their current position. So we've done a tremendous amount of recruiting and hiring folks for the last 12 months, and we couldn't have done that without the director's support and the commission's support. So from the bottom of my heart, I really mean this, that I truly appreciate the amount of support that the commission has given this division and the directorate as well. Wouldn't have been possible without it. So what does that look like on the ground for us? We've actually hired 2 additional private lands biologist positions, like not just new people, but new positions in our division. So what that means is We were able to reduce counties coverage area for the other PLBs, and we were also able to hire 2 field supervisors to help coordinate those efforts out in the field and help do the training for our staff. Those 2 positions were put in Northwest Arkansas, 4 counties up there, and then we've got one in South Central Arkansas. Jason Hooks took that position, and then a new lady will start December the 9th. Her name is Bailey Coffett. She'll be in Northwest Arkansas. We were also, during that time frame, we were also able to hire 5 DMAT biologists. Y'all met those biologists at the Pettaging Commission meeting, and those biologists really helped us have a new focus on DMAP and also allowed our other PLBs to have more focus on delivering our state and federal programs to our landowners across the state. We've also hired a Farm Bill coordinator, Bubba Groves. We used to have this position in the agency a long time ago, but it's probably been the last 10 years we've not had a Farm Bill coordinator position, so this was a big hire. And when we did this interview, Brad said, in the interview, he said this could be one of the most impactful positions that we have in the agency. The reason he said that is because Bubba is our liaison between the NRCS and the Game and Fish. He's the one over there fighting for the wildlife resource concerns. So anytime there's a practice or a scenario being developed through EQIP or Working Lands for Wildlife or any of those Farm Bill programs, Bubba's there representing wildlife. He's our voice, and he's our voice for wildlife at the NRCS level. So he spends most of his time at the NRCS offices dealing with NRCS staff, but he's also spent a great amount of time in the last year training our own staff on all the programs, the practices, and scenarios that we try to deliver to the landowners across the state. So this has been a very impactful position to have in our division. Also, we were able to hire a state program coordinator. Y'all have met her several times, Michelle Furr. She's actually a Campbell Award winner last month. She's done a phenomenal job for our division. She's over our portion of the Forest Stewardship Program. She also runs a small program, a state program called Conservation Incentive Program. It's like only $3.5 million. And so she's been overseeing that as well. The other thing that she's been helping us with is our Quail Forever Partnership Agreement. Most people can't appreciate this, but when I took over this division, we have so many agreements, so many partnerships. It's very difficult to oversee and make sure those are being all held accountable for what's actually in the agreement. So Michelle has taken on the Quail Forever Partnership Agreements, specifically our Habitat Strike Team, which is a 5-person team that does prescribed fire on private lands. She's holding them more accountable than they've ever been held accountable for and since we've had an agreement, which is good for us, good for them, and we're seeing some great things come out of that partnership. Last but not least is we've been able to hire assistant chief and an office manager. So when we first created this division, we didn't have an office manager. We didn't have an assistant chief. It was me, Bubba, and Ted trying to steer this ship. So over the last 12 months, we've been able to hire Randy Brents, and y'all have heard me brag on Randy. I'm not going to brag on too much, but he's been a godsend for Garrick. He brings so much talent that I don't have. He brings a different flair to leadership, to how he supervises staff. It's been awesome to have Randy on my team. But really, the office manager, assistant chief is helping us just coordinate and be accountable for all the programs that we run, all the agreements, and then also that $4.6 million that y'all have entrusted me with in FY25 budget. All right, so that's kind of the team, and I would say this about this team that we've been able to build. 2 things. One, out of all the things I've been able to accomplish in 2 years, and probably in my career in 26 years, this is one of the things I'm most proud of. I'm most proud of this team because of the support that y'all given me in order to build it, but also I think that we built something that's a foundation that's strong, and that's something that we can that will be here for a long time, and that will uphold some of those cultural pillars that Director Boots always talks about: leadership, accountability, high performance. I think this team is built to uphold those pillars that we talk about at the agency level. After we got through building our team, we started immediately working on a strategic plan, a 3-year strategic plan that gives our staff focus on the how and where and when how we're going to deliver, what we're going to deliver, and when we're going to deliver it. And so this plan, we tried to make it actionable, we tried to make it very measurable, and we tried to make it very meaningful for just not just for me and Randy, but for our staff as well. There's 3 strategic pillars that kind of holds the plan up, and that's wildlife and their habitat, staff excellence, and public access to private lands. I'm not going to really go into the public access to private lands. You heard about that program yesterday from David Graves, but I will go into the other 2 pillars in more detail. Some of our core values of our plan is, of course, number 1, our staff, customer service. We are a customer service oriented division. We also we want to make sure that we are doing things in the right areas, and those are those conservation of priority habitats, the conservation opportunity areas. And then lastly, I mean, we wanted our plan to point towards our agency plan, Natural State Tomorrow. So this plan, in my opinion, of course I help write it, but in my opinion, I think it does a very, very good job of helping our staff understand how we fit in as a division into our strategic plan, in the agency strategic plan. So, all right, to cover this, just quickly go over some of the pillars. Wildlife and their habitats is the first pillar. This really gives us, our staff, the idea of what are we going to be working on? Where are we going to be working on at it? So our priority habitats, prescribed fire, forest management, wetland management, native grass restoration. Those are our management actions and our priority habitats that we're going to be talking to landowners across the state day in and day out. That's what we do, and that's what we're going to focus on. All right? And so in order to get better at delivery, when I first took over this division, we were all over the board. I mean, we had 10 private lands biologists doing 10 different things, and so we wanted to kind of standardize how we were delivering, what we were delivering to our landowners. So I worked with our wonderful and very talented, I'm not saying that lightly, I mean it, we have a wonderful and talented communication team. And last year, we spent, my divisions, or my staff spent about 6 to 8 months working on this landowner management guidebook. I give you guys each a copy of this guidebook, and it is based on where you live or where your land is at. And so this is very personable to the landowner. So we use this on site visits. So when our POBs go on site visits, they have this book with them. We talk to the landowner about meeting their objectives. What are their objectives? We're trying to talk to them about different habitat types, different management actions, different programs. And if you remember last year during my update, I talked about me going on a site visit and meeting a landowner, and we just hammered that person for like 2 hours with all this information. Well, then we left, and we didn't leave anything behind. And I can imagine what that landowner was thinking when we left about, what did he say about DMAP? What did he say about EQIP? What did he say about burning? So this is what we leave behind with the landowner. This has all the major habitat types that we talk about generally on every piece of property. It also gets a list of our programs that are available. It gives the top 5 practices, the Farm Bill practices that we use throughout the entire state. It gives a description of those practices, and then on the very back, it provides the landowner a checklist. And I think this is very important, because when the landowner goes in our NRCS office, if they don't have everything that the NRCS office needs, they get turned back. You ever been to the revenue office and had everything you needed? Very rarely do you go in there and you have everything you need. At least that's the way it is for me. So maybe you're different. But as a landowner, we've got a checklist in here. If you go to FSA office, you need to make sure you have a copy of your deed. You got to have this, you got to have that. So this has been a great tool for our staff in order to deliver a message to a landowner and leave something with the landowner. Also, it gives the landowner a chance to read about the private lands biologist, a little bit more about their biologist, about what they enjoy, where they went to school, that sort of thing. So it's got every biologist has got their own page in the book. So that's something we started this in November of last year. So a year ago, our staff's been delivering these books about a year now. Also, we started standardizing. We went out and bought a mapping software. We went out and developed plan templates. We went out and bought Android tablets. So we are standardizing how our staff is interacting with our landowners. We're also standardizing what products our landowners get. Our plan talks about trying to find new incentives for to increase our wildlife and forest health out there on the landscape. So trying to find those new incentives out there. Conservation Incentive Program is one of those. Customer service. We're all about customer service, and this is something that we're always working on, how to improve customer service. And so last November, along with this management guidebook, we initialized a 3 touch point for our private lands bylaws. So the 3 touch points are this. We do a site visit. Within 2 weeks of that site visit, we're going to send a management plan. Within a week of that management plan being sent to the landowner, we're going to give the landowner a call, a text, an email to follow up. So the landowner is going to get 3 touch points. 1, we're going to do a site visit. 2, they're going to get a management plan. 3, we're going to reach back out to them. Because as you can imagine, you go over all this stuff. They may have questions once they get their plan. They may have questions about where that fire break is, what unit they're supposed to be doing TSI on, whatever. So those are the 3 touch points. We're hoping with those extra PLBs that we've gotten over the last 12 months, 18 months, reducing county coverage areas for our staff, we're hoping that we can start having more meaningful relationships with these landowners. As you can imagine this, you own a piece of property and some young biologist comes and tells you need to start cutting all your timber, or not all of it, but cutting a lot of your timber and doing burning. If you don't trust that person, you don't have a relationship with that person, you're probably not going to just start jumping in and doing those type of activities. Now, if somebody tells you to mow your grass, that's easy, right? I mean, it's going to grow back. It's like getting a haircut. But you start cutting timber, start doing prescribed fire, those activities they're just different type of activities that require a different level of trust. So we are trying to figure out ways to build that trust with these landowners. And I think, for the most part, where I want to be at in 3 to 5 years, I'd love to have enough PLBs out there that we're going to cover in 3 to 5 counties. Right now, we got it down to 5 to 7 counties for the most part outside the Delta, but we still need a few more positions to get to that 3 to 5 county level that we feel good about, that we can start building those meaningful relationships. The other thing that we're trying to work on, customer service-wise, is recognition of excellent stewardship. So that's where our Natural State Awards Banquet comes in. We've been trying to recognize landowners, agencies, other partners that are doing an excellent job at stewardship. And we've got some different ideas. We've got some new ideas about how to increase that recognition. And we've shared that with Director Booth and the directorate. And that's going to be, we'll share that with the commission at some point in the future once we get the details lined out. Our outreach, when I took over this division, and still today, our outreach is whenever it feels good, looks good, we put something on social media. It's not very intentional. Like, we want to be more intentional about what we put out there, when we put it out there. And so we've gotten some buy-in from our staff to hopefully, and Randy's kind of been overseeing this part of it, is like, we want to be very intentional when we do post. We want to work with our communications division more about how to get more presence out there on our private lands page, our DMAP page. And then we also want to have focused workshops and trainings. In the past, we just do up workshops everywhere in the state. We want to be more focused about where those workshops go, like in these conservation opportunity areas, drive that work into where we want it to be at across the state. All right, so the second pillar is something else that I'm very excited about. When I took this position, pretty much first day, Director Booth told me something pretty impactful that I've remembered since then. He said, Garrick, you can't expect staff to deliver something they ain't been trained to do. And I'm like, good point. So he's been on me for about 18 to 24 months now to figure out how best to offer quality, impactful training to our staff, that they're ready to go out there, deliver conservation across the state to a landowner. So when we started to write the strategic plan, we started thinking more about how does this look. And so one of the things that we just started July of 2024 is onboarding a 2-year onboarding curriculum. And so it's got 6 different benchmarks. It's 1, 3, 6, 12, 18, 24 months benchmarks. And so every staff in our division over a course of 2 years, when the time they start to 2 years, they'll hit all these benchmarks. The benchmarks, there's lots of different things inside each one of those benchmarks. Some of it's reading the vehicle policy. Some of it's learning how to code it, how to send an electronic invoice and how to code it and stamp it and do all those things. Some of it is reading our species management plans, the turkey strategic plan, the deer strategic plan. So making sure our staff is aware, not just only on our own division, but other divisions out there that are impactful to ours. One cool thing that Randy came up with while we were developing this curriculum was an on-the-job training, a training library. And so he had a vision of like, we'll do 10 to 15-minute webinars and make the staff do them, and then we'll have this training library forever. So if you want to know how to set up a cedar, we've got a seminar, we got a webinar, a 10 to 15-minute webinar that our staff has to watch within this. If you want to know about the forest management inventory management tool that NRCS uses, we've got a webinar on that. So we've got like 26, 28 webinars that our staff is going to watch between the first month they're hired and the last, within the 2 years time period. Randy did make me do the first one, and I did. You can imagine what it sounds like. It's not that great, but it's about the history of our private lands program, and it was pretty interesting. I learned some stuff, and when I gave it, actually Brad listened to it the first time our staff listened to it. He was at our division meeting, and he said he learned something. So, it's the history of our private lands program and into our division and what we're trying to accomplish with the new division. The second thing that we've been working on is professional development. Some of us went through the Walton School last year, a leadership training that the directorate put together for us. This is kind of similar to that. We've been working for the last 8 to 10 months with the Arkansas Wildlife Federation on a private land leadership academy. This is going to be an 8-month curriculum. It's going to cover all the habitat types across the state of Arkansas. It's going to cover how to communicate with landowners. It's going to help us build relationships outside of our agency with other conservation partners across the state. So this is not going to be a game and fish a project. It's a conservation. It's a private land conservation project. So anybody that has private land responsibility in Arkansas, conservation responsibility in Arkansas, will be able to join this academy. So it's going to be 8 months long, 6 different sessions. Some of them are 2 to 3 days in length. It's going to be a time commitment, and we're hoping to send 5 of our staff this spring to the inaugural academy. The other thing that's exciting is we've been working with AFWA. It's the Private Lands Working Group with AFWA on a stewardship academy. This is going to be a virtual academy. It's being housed out of Texas A&M. The textbook's already been written, and we are in the final stages of getting this virtual academy up and running. And so what the vision is, three different visions. One is get into our colleges, and so a 3-hour course for our wildlife and fisheries majors or our biology majors to give them some idea of there's opportunity to work on private lands. So right now when you graduate from college, sometimes you don't even know there's a private lands section out there to work for. So this is the introduction to private lands at a very high level. It's not going to be about Arkansas. It's not going to be about Texas. It's going to be about, the trends and values of private landowners, trends and values of private lands across the state, the core values of stewardship in and of itself, land ethics, that sort of thing. So it's a high level view of private land conservation work. The ultimately, me and Randy, after I met with Dr. Raul, I think it was Dr. Raul Lopez. We met with him 2 weeks ago, and after that meeting, me and Randy started thinking about where this could go in 3 years. So what we envision is taking that leadership academy that the Wildlife Federation is doing taking this virtual academy that Texas A&M is doing and combining those together and getting some college in Arkansas to offer a minor or an emphasis on private lands. So when somebody gets out of school, at college, they've got a wildlife and forestry degree, but they also may have an emphasis on private lands. And so just some of that recruitment to our agency moving forward. And I'm going to try to wrap this up. So we've been spending a lot of time doing landowner trainings and workshops. One of the things I want to highlight here is that Qualified Prescribed Burner course. We had two of our agency staff sit on the committee to develop this course. Tremendous amount of work. Randy and Noah White, well, we're on that committee. A tremendous amount of work to set this course up. So this is a 2-day course, 13 different presentations, and it's a full 2 days. If you've been to it, it's a full 2 days. It takes a lot of staff to coordinate, to pull this off, to keep people engaged for 2 full days. But it's 13 presentations. The first day's all academic inside the classroom. The second day's a half a day in the classroom and a full live scale burn. We've held since July when this course became active. We've held 9 classes. Game and Fish has put on 9 different classes across the state, training over 267 landowners and professionals so far. Our 10th class is going to be offered in 2 weeks at Mountain Home, and it filled up in 3 days. So these courses, when we open them up to the public, they're filling up within 2 to 3 days for the most part. And so very well received. There is appetite out there from the landowner standpoint to get this coursework. This gives some civil liability to landowners that are burning in Arkansas through the passing of Act 695. We've also been very, very more focused on where we're going to hold workshops. So we just held our first workshop in one of the conservation opportunity areas. This is the Blackland Prairie. We held it down in Arkadelphia a few months ago. And if you'll notice that bottom right picture of that big bobwhite quail, that's our newest addition to our booth. Ted saw this at a national convention somewhere and just had to have Mr. Bob. And honestly, I was a little skeptic at first, but it's a great conversation piece. It's pulling people from across the room to come talk to us at our booth, as you can imagine. Communications got to see it first. They named it Mr. Bob. It's about 7 foot tall. It's a giant. Last but not least, this is the last slide. I'm going to sit down. This was an aha moment for me in July. So this is the first time that I was able to sit down in a room with all of our staff and our partner staff. And when I came into the room, there was almost 40 people sitting around the table. I was like, private lands has hit a new level in Arkansas. We've got 40-something dedicated staff across the state with DU, NWTF, Quail Forever, Ducks Unlimited, Game and Fish. We've got over 40 staff that's doing nothing but private lands work. That's pretty awesome. And that's the support from the commission and the directorate that's made that happen over the last 2-3 years. NRCS is also hiring lots of staff to help deliver all the Inflation Reduction Act money that's coming from Washington, D.C. over the next 5 years. And I would be remiss to say this. It's a great time to be a landowner. If you are a landowner in Arkansas and you're interested in wildlife habitat or improving wildlife habitat, or you got a wildlife resource concern on your property that you want to take care of, great time to be a landowner. We got millions of dollars. I'm talking about millions of dollars coming to Arkansas over the next 4 to 5 years through RCPP, Working Lands for Wildlife, EQIP, CSP, you name it, it's coming. We've got the staff to help deliver it. NRCS is ramping up their staff. It's a great time to be. And so I'm excited. In a couple months, we're going to bring you some of our accomplishments, and you'll see some of those highlighted for the last 12 months based on the money that we're getting to do that work. Conservation Incentive Program is one of those. And lastly, I said this yesterday, but I'll go ahead and highlight it again because I know waterfowl season's coming up in a couple days. But our staff, along with NRCS, have been able to put about 48,000 acres of waterfowl habitat across the state this year, not in contracts, That's going to be done over the next 5 years. This is what's paid for this year through CIP, MBRI, and our W. Rice program. So hats off to our staff and for NRCS putting the money out there to make that happen. I think this speaks volume not only for the waterfowl coming, but also for our North American waterfowl management plan, our end of the bargain in that plan. It helps meet those goals as well. So with that, I'll take any questions. And I had to take that picture for Keith Stevens. He gives me a hard time about taking selfies, so I had to take a selfie with Mr. Bob.
Hey, Garrett, I'm really glad that you got that quail because you, of all people, definitely need conversation starters with people.
It's not hard for me to pull them over to my table.
Yeah. Now, two things that I would like to point out briefly. It's one thing to go turn acres black, all right? It's one thing to sit in a tractor and, put moist soil units down or put fire breaks in. But what I challenged Garrick with was how we grow private lands division in a disciplined way that we can build on it for the future. It's not just going to the legislature to ask for more positions so we can throw bodies at a problem. It's how we have a disciplined approach to the most, at the time, under-prioritized area of conservation in Arkansas, and that was our private landowners in this wonderful state that is 90% privately owned. And Garrick has done an outstanding job doing just that, right? Not just creating this new division, but building a framework and a disciplined approach to how we grow private lands conservation in Arkansas. And that is incredibly hard to do when you run as fast as Garrick does, when you talk as fast as Garrick does. When there's so much work to be done, it is easy to get ahead of yourself in turning acres black and doing all the inputs. But to be able to do both at the same time to grow in a disciplined way is truly remarkable. Great job, Garrett.
Thanks, sir.
The other thing that I want to point out is I want to thank Greenway. Greenway is a wonderful partner of the Private Lands Division through the foundation and Jibby and our corporate sponsorship program. We have all kinds of constraints when it comes to habitat and conservation. One of those constraints is people, one of those constraints is budget, and another one of those constraints is equipment. So they've been an outstanding partner, helping us make sure that we don't run up against any equipment constraints, and when we have a window to get work done with the great people, that we can do it.
Hey, Garrett, let me just say this. It's, and everybody in this room has been in business at some point or another, but there's nothing more than refreshing. Not that this was a real new division. I mean, we had private lands, but when you put something like this together and you stand it up and you put somebody in charge of it, to look back in 2 years later, and as business operators to look back to see that you couldn't have picked a better person, to put somebody out there to see that they've done everything they can with what they've been given and just achieved more. Is just phenomenal what you've done in 18 months with this group and your staff. You and your staff, and I know you give them credit, they certainly deserve credit, but I got to be honest with you, just your leadership, your passion, and your energy are the ingredients that make the success of that work with everybody. And the state of Arkansas should be grateful for that. But I can tell you as commissioners, we're extremely grateful to be able to watch you grow and what you've done. It's been fantastic. And I know personally and how proud your family is of you. And we're equally proud of that. If you want to grow it more and you want to recruit more people, I think it's nothing less than just you doing the recruitment video would be all it would take to get as many people as you wanted to want to work for you. Because I'm about ready to quit and come to work for you myself. I think I could do it. We're going to have to talk to Caldwell down here about maybe getting the budget up a little bit. But that being said, and I've dealt with your folks in the field, and I've had great relationships with them. They do such a great job, and they carry your passion. When you're not there, they carry your passion and energy into the field and do all the things you talked about today. So from that and from the commission and from I thank you. I appreciate you a lot more than you probably ever know.
Thank you, Commissioner Finley.
I want to say something. Of course, 90% of Arkansas is private land, so your division is so important, and you've done a great job and what an awesome presentation. But I've had the privilege of being around your team And it was quite the privilege. But the main thing that I got from your team more than anything else is it's not their job, it's their life. I mean, they live and breathe it 24/7, and it's amazing that you put together such a team. So hats off to you. Great job. Thank you for all you've done for Game and Fish.
Thank you.
You know, there are three things that you said early on that I wrote down that are so uncommon in government. And I'm really glad that the Senator was here to hear this, because I know she gets constituent complaints all the time across government and in my life in government is we have all these programs and services that are so burdensome to utilize. And you talked about, I mean, this checklist, the cutting of the bureaucracy and streamlining it. And then the third thing was just your customer service oriented is missed a lot in bureaucracy. And so, as I look down at the bottom of our notepad, our mission here of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's mission is to conserve and enhance Arkansas's fish and wildlife and their habitats while promoting sustainable use, public understanding, and support. And that last half right there gets forgotten, I think, sometimes, because I think the public and everyone thinks that we're here for, these WMAs and some regulations, while the director pointed out 90% of this state is privately owned habitat. And that, promoting sustainability and the public understanding and support, I think that you are leading the tip of the spear on that. So my hat's off to you, because, if you get too good at it, they may steal you away to DFNA to run DMB.
Well,
We're not going to let Duggar get away. Well, all great comments, commissioners, and I just would also add to that, Garrick, that I couldn't be more proud as a resource professional. The quality of service that we're providing out to these landowners is just top bar. As Chris pointed out, this habitat management plan, checklist, just a great way to communicate all of the things that they need to have when they show up. And so, again, hats off to you and to your team that you've put together. I think, as you've already pointed out, this is a team effort, and we are so blessed to have great folks with our Private Lands Division.
Thanks, Chairman Ely. I appreciate the comments, and it's heartfelt for sure. For me, I appreciate that, but it is all about this team. I mean, I've been blessed. I didn't know how it was going to go 2 years ago about building a team in 2 years and how well supportive it would be by the commission or the directorate. I can't. I started off by saying this, but I'll say it again. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate the support and what it's meant for me and my team in order to build something like we've been able to build over the last 2 years. Also, I want to mention that our strategic plan, I went over it pretty quick. I know I talk fast and all that, but it is on the Game and Fish website. If you want to go look at it, it's posted on the Game and Fish website with all 3 pillars, all the goals and all the objectives that we're trying to achieve in the next 3 years. So that's on the website. Thanks for the comments. Look forward for the next 2 years.
I think one thing we need to work on as a commission is getting the word out, because now that it's built and it's perfected, I mean, there's nobody that's a private landowner that shouldn't take advantage of this. So I think we need to do that, as a commission, to get that out there to people.
And so Commissioner Adams, Austin said, he said this one time, he's like, Eric, I went to Northwest Arkansas and met this person. They didn't even know we had a private lands program. He said, that's embarrassing. I said, I get it. But if we call the masses out, we can't. Just for instance, Commissioner Adams, we did a Facebook post about quail one time. This has been about 3 years ago. We had over 500 responses within a month that wanted site visits, from 5 acres to 1 acre to 3 acres to 100 acres. And so our staff just couldn't take care of it. So we're trying to make sure that we're systematic in making sure we don't outrun our staff. We want to provide a quality product, and we want to have meaningful relationships with our landowners. And so I agree with you 100%. We need to do a better job of making sure everybody that needs our services understands that they're here for, we're here to help. Well, yeah, I'm saying we do need to do a better job as far as making sure people are aware that we have a private lands division. I just don't want to outrun our staff. So I'm gonna quit. I can stay up here for an hour, but I don't want to do that.
I've got one more question, Garrett.
All right.
For those of you that don't know, I sit down with Garrett quarterly, and we talk about all of this kind of stuff: impact, organization, training, readiness, all of that kind of stuff. And I end every single meeting with the same question, don't I, Garrett?
Yeah. Are you having fun? And I'm, time flies when you're having fun. I said that earlier, and I said it for Director Booth, but I generally tell him I'm not having too much fun. I'll have fun when I go bass fishing. This is work, but it is enjoyable work. It is enjoyable work. I always tell him I don't know if I call it fun, but I'm having a good time. So thank y'all for listening to me. I appreciate you.
Well, great report, Garrick, and thank you again to Private Lands. All right, Director Booth, you're next with the director's report.
All right, good morning, everybody. Great to be in Mountain View. It has been a wonderful time to be here. The support that we've received from the community has been fantastic. And as many of you know, when we do these meetings on the road, we often will try to stay at a state park and enjoy the fellowship and the hospitality of our partners at the Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism. And the amenities, the customer service that we've received here has been top notch. So thank you, Senator Irvin, former Commissioner Hinkle, for y'all's wonderful community, for welcoming us because we've truly enjoyed it. I want to recognize, because everybody's looking at their watch, not wondering how long I'm going to run my mouth for, but looking at their watch, counting down the hours until duck season. Want to just recognize our game wardens. Normally, when we do these commission meetings on the road, we'll have a large group of game wardens here to see the public and also see us. And this is an incredibly busy time for our enforcement division, as they not only are prepping for waterfowl season that opens this weekend, but also remain in the thick of deer season as well. So thanks to all of our game wardens throughout Arkansas and to many of their families who no doubt miss them. Lastly, I want to point out what some of you have already read about, and some of you all were there for it, but we opened or dedicated our water control structure at Glaze Creek at Hurricane Lake Wildlife Management Area a couple weeks ago. This is such a remarkable success story for the agency. It was a roughly 3-year project that will give us an immense amount of control over the natural resources as they're impacted by water at that particular GTR. However, it's more than a story about building a massive and, I think, beautiful water control structure. It is a story about really what is the core ethos of this agency right now. And that is looking legacy challenges in the face, looking them dead in the eye, and making a deliberate decision that we're going to tackle them. It would have been very easy with Henry Gray Hurricane Lake Wildlife Management Area to look the problem of our broad decline in forest health in the eye and shy away from it. It would have been easier to think about the public's valid concerns about less predictable public access and shy away from it. But I'm so proud of this agency for all the many divisions that made not only that project, but the other GTR renovations that we completed this year at Earl Best Bayou DeView and almost Shirey Bay Rainy Break. Want to thank every single division, not only for completing these projects, but for having the core conviction, the abiding covenant with Arkansans and our outdoors that the natural resources matter. They matter deeply to people, and that's why we take them so seriously. So thank you to this agency. Thank you to the commissioners that have provided an incredible amount of support to this agency for ensuring that we rise to that GTR challenge and that we don't wince doing it. Thank you to the staff. Thank you to the game wardens, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
All right, thank you, Director Booth. And next we move into our committee meeting reports. First up, Vice Chair Anne-Marie DeRamus, Chair of Budget Committee. Will you give us your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everybody. The Budget Committee met yesterday. We had one discussion item. Our CFO, Emily Shoemate, provided the agency's financial status report. There were 4 action items. Emily Shoemate presented an action item for a budget increase for natural disaster response, which received a unanimous do pass out of committee. Then our Chief Legal Counsel, John Marks, presented an action item for a budget increase for a new and improved regulations platform. This item was tabled for further discussion. Next, Deputy Director Spencer Griffith presented an action item for a budget increase for IT needs at the Mayflower Field Office, which received a unanimous do pass. Spencer Griffith also presented a minute order for a budget increase for AV improvements and renovations to the auditorium in Little Rock, which received a unanimous do pass. There was no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chairman. Next, Commissioner Finley, Chair of Regulations. Will you please give us your report?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday's Reg Committee met. Our discussion items included Megan Brandt gave an update on the Coldwater Stream Habitat Program and highlighted some of the work being done on accesses with private landowners. She also discussed projects being done throughout the Conservation Incentive Program. There were no action items, no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Finley. Next, Commissioner Tappan, Chair of Property Management. Would you please give us your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. Property Management Committee meeting yesterday. We had one discussion item. David Graves provided an update on the W. Rice program, including stats on the acres enrolled, the hunter surveys, and participant feedback. There were no action items, no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
All right, thank you again, Commissioner. And next, Commissioner Jones, Chair of Personnel Governance. Would you please give us your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Great to be here in Mountain View. Personnel and Governance Committee met yesterday. We had multiple discussion items. Director Booth introduced the team leaders for key results and each provided updates. First one was Colonel Brad Young discussed major violations. If you weren't here for that yesterday, you should have been. It was fantastic. And then Jana Highland discussed staff satisfaction. Mike Cantrell discussed the capital construction. Laura Weston discussed long-term support for conservation, and then ending Luke Naylor discussed habitat restoration. John Marks presented the agency's legal report. There were no action items, no new business, no old business. We did have executive session, and executive session was held for approximately 45 minutes. However, no action was taken following the session.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Jones. And finally, Commissioner Adams, Chair of Education, IT, GIS, Communications. Would you please give us your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. The Education, IT, GIS, Communications Committee met yesterday. We had 2 discussion items. Mary Beth Hatch provided an update on the Teacher Leader Council and the School of Conservation Leadership, and want to thank the teachers that made the trip up here. Really appreciate it. I know a lot of you came a long way, and we really thank you. And your work does not go unnoticed, so thanks again. Next, Jose Jimenez provided an update on the Recreational Shooting Sport Division. He also shared a status report on the Clarksville shooting range and introduced Hunter Jackson from the University of the Ozarks. There were no action items, no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Adams. Next, we have our items of commission that need approval under Item B, budget increase for IT at Mayflower Field Office. David Castleberry, you have the floor.
Chairman,
We
sorry,
got Spencer.
David's still out today, so I'm back again today, seeking your approval on a budget increase of $191,000 to move forward with construction with Unite Private Networks to install a second fiber line at the Mayflower office to give us some redundancy in our dispatch center as well as our backup network.
All right, thank you, Spencer. This item does require approval from Budget Committee. Vice Chair DeRamus, was this approved in your Budget Committee?
It was approved.
Okay, I have a motion to approve this request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved. Thank you, Spencer.
Thank you.
Next item, budget increase for auditorium and of our AV renovations. And Spencer, you have the floor again.
Yes, so seeking your approval on a budget increase of $215,000 to partner with Online Technologies of North Little Rock. The goal of this is to renovate the visual and audio visual components of the auditoriums for agency business.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. This item does require approval from Budget Committee. Vice Chair Doremus, was this approved in your Budget Committee?
It was approved in Budget Committee.
Okay, and again, we have a motion to approve this request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. And then lastly, we have a budget increase for our natural disaster response. And Mr. Ben Batten, you have the floor.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Director Booth, and everyone in attendance here and online. Yesterday, CFO Shoemate presented a potential minute order to take $36,000 in natural resource disaster appropriation. This would be funded by gas lease funds. Again, back in May, there was a really massive tornado that went through Rogers and surrounded areas. It was really bad, we were hit minimally, thankfully, but a lot of people had a lot of loss up there. So this is a small amount of funds to do garage doors, shed, and a boat motor and trailer replacement. And again, these were items that were not covered by our insurance policy.
Okay, thank you, Ben, for that. This item requires approval from Budget Committee. Vice Chair Doremus, was this approved?
It was approved.
Okay. I have a motion to approve this request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This motion is approved as well. Thank you, Mr. Batten. All right. Is there any new business to be brought before the commission? Is there any old business to be brought before the commission? Is there any motion for an executive session?
There is a motion for executive session.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Finley. All in favor say aye. Aye. We will retire to executive session to discuss personnel matter. Would make your way back to your seats. I think we're all back. Commissioner Jones, was there any action item taken in executive session?
Yes, there was one action item. We had a motion from Commissioner Finley and a second by Commissioner Doremus to very sadly accept the resignation of Director Austin Booth effective January the 4th.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Again, this is a sad note. We unanimously approved this in executive session. And officially, do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, we are now back officially in this meeting, and Director Booth, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Neely. For some time now, I've been wrestling with the question of whether I am living up to the most consequential, abiding, important, impactful calling that I have in my life, second to faith in Christ, and that is being a husband and a father. And over the past 3 years, I have balanced that calling with one that I take incredibly seriously, and that is to be the director of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. However, maintaining this balance not only comes in the wake of 13 years worth of public service, but is also becoming increasingly difficult as my kids, who I adore, become older in age. And so it's for this reason, and given our remarkable progress in the agency over the past 3.5 years that has remarkably exceeded my expectations, that I have decided to transition to the private sector for the first time in my career. There are so many people that I need to thank, and it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to get through this. So I'll do my best by keeping it brief. I want to thank Deke. You've been a friend and a confidant, and when I first took this job, didn't really know you. And I went into your office, and I sat in that chair, and you said, you know, anything that you ever need, even if it's just to sit in that chair, you can do. And I've certainly done it, and it is difficult for the public to recognize just how much the foundation's grown under your leadership at the same time that the agency's grown. And to have both of those two things happening at the same time has been remarkable. I'm not going to name names, but one former commissioner told me when I accepted this position nearly 3.5 years ago that I needed an informal advisory council made up of former commissioners, and that I needed to consult these people frequently, and the different former commissioners could provide different roles. But there's a handful of former commissioners out there who I have a great deal of respect for and have leaned on heavily throughout the past 3.5 years. One of them is sitting right back there, former Commissioner Jim Hinkle. To those former commissioners who know who they are, I would like to thank them. They have made this journey fun, and anytime I needed a second or third or 455th opinion, I would always be able to get it from them. So thank them for their wisdom and for their support for me over the past 3.5 years. I also want to thank Chris Racy. I was so excited to come into this agency that I have loved my entire life, but learn it from the inside out. And you were the perfect person to not only complement all of my many weaknesses as director, but to introduce this agency to me from the inside out. I will miss working with you every day. And I wish the staff recognized what an advocate they had in Chris Racy. I want to thank my wife and my kids who couldn't be here today. It would be a less productive meeting if they were. But I want to thank my wife and my kids and my mom and dad who are listening, and my in-laws, Julie and Steve, who are watching from Florida, for keeping me grounded, for pointing me to Jesus, for being an encourager, for making sacrifices so I can be effective. It has been an incredible 3.5 years, and I have no people to thank more than my family. Lastly, I want to thank the staff. The work that y'all do here is just remarkable. I mean, it was incredible last night to listen to Greta, our incredible graphic designer, talk about the importance of habitat. All right. That's what the Game and Fish Commission is all about. Habitat, conserving natural resources, but to hear someone that doesn't work in the dirt like Garrick and his team every single day, see that was so awesome. Thank you to the staff. I have always called Arkansas home. Even when I didn't live here for 15 years, I always called it home. I love this state so much. And I always knew that it had so much to do with the hard work of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. And thank you so much to our staff and commissioners for letting me be a part of that, even if it was just for 3.5 years. So I have loved being here. I will let history and the next director say whether I've left it better than I found it. But I do know that y'all have left me better than I was 3.5 years ago. So thank y'all. I'll see you in the field.
We are deeply saddened, but on behalf of the other commissioners and the staff of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, I want to thank you, Austin Booth, our director, for the last 3.5 years of tireless dedication to this commission and to the people of the great state of Arkansas. I must say that hiring you has been one of the best decisions that we've ever made as commissioners. There's a saying that iron sharpens iron. Your leadership has taken a tremendously skilled group of staff and strengthened their ability to put habitat and people first. Your motto of "see it in the field" has meant that you've rolled up your sleeves, that you've led by example. With that, you're a true servant leader. Under Austin's leadership, we have developed a blueprint for addressing the future of conservation with our natural state tomorrow. And your plans and leadership will impact all hunters and anglers and conservationists, both now and those yet to be born. While we are deeply saddened by your departure, we wish you and your family all the best and success in your future endeavors. As we wrap up, there's another sad note that I must also bring to bear. It's been in the paper, and our commission 2 weeks ago lost a huge advocate and a former commissioner in Craig Campbell. I just want to recognize that, and on behalf of all of the current and former commissioners, our staff and agency, we extend our deepest condolences to his family, and we're thankful for his years of service that were from 2006 to 2011. Even our current committee structure that was created during his 2010-2011 year, which we now still enjoy even to this day with that creation. our own Craig Campbell Award, which is given out every year for excellence and service, commemorates excellence, and we remember him for that. Our largest state lake bears his name. The Craig D. Campbell Lake Conway Reservoir is given in his honor, and now will be in his memory. And lastly, I just would say that as we all know that all commissioners, both former and active, cherish the time that we get to serve and to serve alongside some great people. And certainly Craig Campbell was one of those that made a huge impact on this state. So please continue to remember him and his family, and we're thankful for his years of service. On a lighter note, and to kind of tie in with Garrick and the great work that's going on in the field, there was an announcement by Weyerhaeuser this week, and we got to talk about that. David Luker and I were talking about it, and some of the staff. And it can't go unnoticed because we as managers cannot impact this 90% of non-industrial private land without markets. And so I just want to thank publicly Weyerhaeuser for their commitment to invest back in Arkansas, the natural state. This is a huge commitment. $500 million will employ 200 people. While that's a great economic impact, and as a forester, I'm really excited for the future markets in my area in South Arkansas. But more importantly, I'm excited about the habitat work that's going to be benefiting from those thinnings and that work, those tons that'll get to come out, and that sunlight that's going to hit the ground, because a lot of deer and turkey and quail and other creatures that need that disturbance will be greatly impacted for those markets. So again, thank you to Weyerhaeuser for their good work, and we look forward to that plant coming soon, by 2027. Austin mentioned thanks to Mountain View, and again, Senator Irvin, Commissioner Hinkle, all of the folks here in Mountain View. Y'all have shown us the greatest of hospitality to our state parks. We have truly enjoyed our stay. Mary Beth, where are you? JJ, thank y'all for yesterday. We really had and were blessed with one of the most unique tours that I've ever got to experience as a commissioner, that cave tour. And we've got folks here from education. I want to thank y'all for being here. Y'all's commitment to education and to carrying this to our kids in these tours, and y'all's where we're going and with our education division, I couldn't be more excited. So thank you all again. And then lastly, last night with Greta, your painting is top bar. We as the agency and all of Arkansas look forward to going out and buying these plates. I'm going to have one on my Bronco in the next week. So I'm looking forward to that. And lastly, as we all know, this is Thanksgiving and a season to be thankful, most importantly to God, for his provision for salvation through his son Jesus, for our families, for our jobs, our work, being able to serve. And so I wish each and every one a blessed Thanksgiving with your families and safe travels. And with that, we're adjourned.